The next big thing. Those 4 words can make or break a new wrestling superstar in waiting. We've seen successes in the form of Hulk Hogan, The Ultimate Warrior, Bret Hart, and Sting, whereas Brock Lesnar took the moniker figuratively and literally, becoming the youngest WWE champion of all time shortly after debuting, and for also being as big as a mansion full of steak and violence. But successes like these are often exceptions to the rule, as more often than not, the next big thing title damns whomever it is attached to. In the past few years alone, we've seen Roman Reigns struggle with the term, with Vince McMahon pinning all his hopes and dreams upon Reigns as the WWE Universe rejected him, resentful of how he was presented as the great new hope. That's not to say though that things can't turn around. We all remember crowds shouting "Die Rocky Die" at hapless Rocky Maivia, then completely changing their tune when he morphed into The Rock and started talking about monkey asses and pies. You are a fickle bunch if nothing else. But while some have managed to shake off the shackles of the title, others have drowned under its weight and ended up not realizing their full potential. I'm Adam Pachisi from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 of wrestling's next big things who never quite made it. Join us! Number 10, Sin Cara. Big, bumbling, blue, botchy bollocks Sin Cara was given massive attention when he signed with WWE in 2011. Triple H's first personal project, the former CMLL megastar Mystico was seen as a major signing for WWE and was poised to become something they desperately craved, the next Rey Mysterio. Smelling that sweet, sweet Latin American audience money, Sin Cara was given the star attraction treatment straight away. A cool mask, an elaborate entrance, and sensual mood lighting. Unfortunately, during his Raw in-ring debut, Cara botched his entrance by clipping the top rope, tarnishing his mystique straight away and serving as a precursor for the rest of his run. The former Mystico had to adapt to the WWE style on the fly, using house show matches as training exercises, and was not remotely ready when he debuted on TV. As a result, his matches were chock full of mistakes and his reputation took a nosedive. Bad news for WWE, good news for certain botch-centric YouTube channels. Still, WWE persisted, but nothing could get Sin Cara over. To try and disguise his awkward in-ring work, WWE kept the sensual mood lighting on during his matches, but audiences complained as no one could see what the hell was going on. Come January 2014, Cara packed his bags, said "Bugger this, I'm going back to Mexico and I'm keeping my gimmick," and was released by WWE shortly after. Number 9, Nathan Jones. Standing 6'11" tall and built like an angry Shire horse, Nathan Jones had next big thing stamped on him so clearly that you could probably see it from space. Fulfilling the Vince McMahon criteria of "he's bloody massive," the former strongman was promptly placed into a storyline with The Undertaker leading into WrestleMania 19 shortly after debuting. If this isn't next big thing treatment, then frankly, nothing is. Taker was positioned as Jones's mentor, teaching the big Aussie how to wrestle so Jones could turn his back on a life of crime, which was dead nice of the dead man, considering that a year earlier he was beating Ric Flair to a bloody pulp for fun. The stage was set for WrestleMania, Taker and Jones versus Big Show and A-Train. The world waited to see how the Greenhorn would fare on a big stage. But at the last minute, he was pulled from the show and it was made a handicap match. Jones did turn up and attack Big Show in the closing stages though, which was something of a consolation, I guess. Jones was promptly sent to OVW for seasoning and several months later reappeared on WWE TV as SmackDown GM Paul Heyman's new monster muscle. The Colossus of Boggo Road soon wound up on Brock Lesnar's ultra beefy Survivor Series team alongside fellow next big thing Matt Morgan, amongst others. Finally, Jones was going to get the spotlight he had worked so hard for, and then he did very little in the match and quickly tapped out to Kurt Angle. Jones would go on to quit the company during an international tour and turn to Hollywood, ending up in the wonderfully insane Mad Max Fury Road as Rictus Erectus. Oi oi! Number 8, Matt Morgan. Another member of Team Beef at Survivor Series 2003, Matt Morgan was in a similar boat to Nathan Jones. He was 7 foot tall, looked like he could punch a bus in half, and was pushed far too quickly. Morgan had all the tools necessary to succeed in WWE's Land of the Giants, but his career in the Fed never really got going. After his losing effort at Survivor Series, Morgan just kinda hung around on SmackDown, occasionally teaming with Nathan Jones and Brock Lesnar as the 3 fellas you'd least want to see if you ran an all-you-can-eat restaurant. After a second stint in OVW, Morgan came back to the main roster as a stuttering big man who was defensive of his speech impediment. Did anyone in the back actually think this would get him over? Morgan soon left WWE WWE and New Japan thought, sod it, he'll be our next big thing instead. Morgan looked a gift horse in the mouth though, defected to All Japan, and then bounced around the indies for a while before landing in TNA. TNA, for all their faults, knew what they had on their hands and made Morgan a star. It was simple, he's massive, so just let him pump kick people in the chest. 2 runs with the TNA tag team titles helped cement Morgan's spot in the company, but that was about as far as he got. TNA never fully pulled the trigger on the blueprint, and it's hard to understand why. He was decent in the ring, was popular with the fans, and was one of the company's legit success stories. Now the mayor of Longwood, Florida, Matt Morgan will always be a case of wrestler who was never allowed to reach his full potential. Number 7, Bobby Lashley. Another prototypical Vince McMahon guy. Are you starting to notice a pattern here? Vince must have thought he struck gold when he signed Bobby Lashley in 2005. And bloody hell did the WWE have high hopes. Upon his SmackDown debut, the Big Lasher was introduced as a 3-time National Amateur Wrestling Champion, a 4-time All-American, a 2-time Armed Forces Champion, a 2002 silver medalist at the Military World Championship, a partridge, and a pear tree. Seriously, they may as well have said this fella is going to be shoved down your throat, so sit down and enjoy it. You can hardly blame them though. Bobby had a great look, a great background, and was an easily marketable wrestler. But the fans soon turned. After the obligatory Goldberg-esque undefeated streak, complete with United States title run, Lashley made his way to ECW, where he won the ECW title at the greatest pay-per-view of all time, December to Dismember. The hardcore ECW fans hated Lashley, but Vince wasn't arsed and continued to captain the Lashley train, feuding with the big fella in a desperate attempt to get him over. But Big Bad Bob got injured, had surgery, and was released in early 2008. So Lashley went to TNA for a bit, battered some lads in MMA bouts, then returned to Impact in 2014. Lashley arguably became the greatest thing about Impact at the time, at one point holding every singles title on offer with a nifty little headband glued to his head. But unfortunately, this was when nobody was really that bothered about the company. Lashley returned to WWE in 2018, but now in his 40s, his chances to become a genuine top star do seem limited. Number 6, Vladimir Kozlov. Remember Vladimir Kozlov? Sambo master, kickboxer extraordinaire, and 2008's official next big thing. Kozlov was part brick wall, part martial arts powerhouse, and an extremely proud Russian, despite actually being from Ukraine. While Kozlov was decent but plodding in the ring, he didn't exactly have the best look. Big white nondescript undies and the face and hair of a downtrodden geography teacher who earned spare cash on the weekends by fighting dogs in a pub basement. WWE didn't care, clearly thinking it's been a minute since we've had an evil Russian who is evil solely because he isn't American, and promptly pushed Kozlov right to the top of the card. Will the WWE ever move on from the Cold War? My money is on niet. Vlad battered a who's who of WWE's lower card talent before finding himself in the Survivor Series main event, a triple threat match for the WWE title against Jeff Hardy and WWE champion Triple H. Hardy was replaced by Edge, but it didn't matter to Kozlov because he didn't win. Crucially, he wasn't the one pinned though. Kozlov's greatest success came with Santino Marella of all people as the prototypical odd couple. The two would go on to win the tag team titles together and starred in the genuinely funny Santino's Tea Party segment with Sheamus on Raw in 2010, showing the Moscow Maulers' comedic chops. The serious push was dead and buried, and the once dominant athlete was now part of a farcical team. A little while later, and Kozlov was unfortunately gone. Number 5, Ahmed Johnson. Before WWE found its attitude, Ahmed Johnson was on a path to become one of the company's biggest stars, but is now probably best remembered for his nonsensical promos in WWE video games.
If you want to step up to play team, bring it on, because I forgot to take my medication in the morning.
A weird combination of Road Warrior Hawk and Mortal Kombat's Jax, Johnson debuted in 1995 and was soon pushed prominently on WWE television, becoming the first ever African-American Intercontinental Champion after just 6 months on the roster. The sky was the limit, and Johnson soon tagged with Shawn Michaels before becoming #1 contender for the WWE title. However, a kidney problem put Johnson out of action for 4 months, forcing him to miss SummerSlam 96, forego his #1 contenders match, and vacate the IC title. Fully healed up, Johnson feuded with Farouk, culminating with a Chicago street fight as an honorary member of the Legion of Doom against the Nation of Domination at WrestleMania 13. A match where everyone was swinging planks of wood like Jim Duggan after too much much Red Bull. Johnson was later set to face WWE Champion The Undertaker at In Your House Canadian Stampede, but injuries took him out of action once again. Ahmed then walked away from WWE in early 1998 to care for his sister, who was seriously ill. The next time we would see Johnson was in WCW in late 1999. The muscular powerhouse we knew was long gone, and the newly christened Big T, no relation to Big E, was just a shadow of his former self, teaming with Stevie Ray as the crap Harlem Heat 2000 before being let go after just 4 months due to his weight issues. Number 4, Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Opportunity. Ken Kennedy had the world at his fingertips, only to become another WWE Nearly Man. The combination of Mr. Kennedy's crowd-pleasing gimmick of being his own personal ring announcer, along with his natural charisma, led most to assume the WWE title was in his future. A quick run with the US title proved to be a stepping stone, and Kennedy was soon enjoying wins over the likes of The Undertaker and Chris Benoit, as well as a World Heavyweight title shot against Batista at Royal Rumble 2007. Then, to blow all doubt out of the water that he was indeed the next big thing, Kennedy won the 2007 Money in the Bank briefcase at WrestleMania 23. Unfortunately, Loud Kenneth became the first WWE superstar to lose the case, dropping it to Edge just 2 months after winning it. Kennedy then got injured, came back to slap people with his microphone, then was suspended for a wellness policy violation. The timing couldn't have been worse, as this suspension cost Kennedy his biggest push, being the storyline illegitimate son of Vincent Kennedy McMahon. Kennedy. Get it? Rather than wait for Kennedy, WWE said sod it, named Hornswoggle as the son, and swiftly moved on. More injuries occurred, and Kennedy was released in 2009. Reports stated the fact that Kennedy's body was as fragile as Hulk Hogan's ego was the main reason for his dismissal, whereas Kennedy went on record to say the real reason he was let go is because Randy I Love a Tantrum Orton didn't like him. Kennedy went on to have a good run in TNA as Mr. Anderson, where he was a 2-time TNA champion. But still, he could have at one point been an actual McMahon, an honor worth more than any championship. Number 3, Tom Magee. Us wrestling fans love a good urban legend. Was Christopher Daniels really the original choice for the higher power? Was Sting supposed to be the third man? Was Montreal a work? No, it wasn't. But for years, there was no bigger urban legend than that of Tom Magee. 6'5", stronger than Asterix, Popeye, and She-Hulk combined, and with a look that screamed, "Look at me, I'm bloody great," Magee was destined to become the next Hulk Hogan. But he didn't, and in the end, he became nothing more than a myth. There were whispers and stories here and there. A second-place finish at the World's Strongest Man 1982, an incredible debut match against Riki Choshu in All Japan that had Dave Meltzer foaming at the mouth with anticipation, and a lost match against Bret Hart that was considered the holy grail amongst tape traders for decades. The lost match was meant to be genre-defining, better than Kobashi vs. Misawa, Undertaker vs. HBK, and Lenny Lane vs. El Dandy combined. Then in 2019, it was finally released. It was good. Very good indeed for the time. So good that Vince allegedly gushed in Gorillas saying, "That is our next champion." Magee looked great, a flurry of arm drags and backflips, but really, Hart was the genius behind the match, a man who could get a good match out of a broom. So what happened to Magee? Mega Man continued progressing in WWE in dark matches, but Vince soon realized that without the right opponent, Magee wasn't all that. And the next Hulk Hogan quietly rode off into the sunset like a big, muscly cowboy. Number 2, Magnum TA. During the NWA's glory years of the 70s and 80s, being world champion was a very big deal. Only 11 men held the title across 2 decades, legendary names like Harley Race, Ric Flair, and Dusty Rhodes included. At one point, there was meant to be one more name joining that list, Magnum TA. Looking like Jake the Snake's blonde brother crossed with Tom Magnum P.I. Selleck, Magnum TA started with the NWA when he was 18, working the territories until settling in Bill Watts' Mid-South Wrestling. The American heartthrob was young, gifted, and over like nothing you've ever seen. Upon signing with Jim Crockett in 1984, it became a question of when, not if, he'd become the biggest star in the NWA. People loved him, and 2 runs with the NWA US title only boosted his popularity. As champ, Magnum clashed with Tully Blanchard and the Four Horsemen and engaged in a memorable best-of-7 title feud with Nikita Koloff. The stage was being set for Magnum TA's crowning moment, and a win over Ric Flair for the NWA World Heavyweight title was allegedly scheduled for the Great American Bash 1987. But the match would never happen. When driving home one night in October 1986, Magnum lost control of his Porsche and wrapped it around a telephone pole. It was a miracle he survived, but doctors feared Magnum would never walk again. Aged just 27, Terry Allen was forced to retire immediately, but would still make appearances across the NWA, even enjoying a stint on commentary for WCW. Old school wrestling fans will be quick to tell you just how good Magnum TA was, and he will go down as one of wrestling's biggest ever what-if stories. Number 1. Lex Luger. Has there been a bigger false dawn than that of Lex Luger in WWE? A standout star of early WCW, Lex made the jump to Vince McMahon's World Bodybuilding Federation in 1992, where Vince took one look at him before his eyes flew out of his head like a cartoon wolf. The WBF soon folded, and Lex instead debuted for the WWE in 1993 as the Narcissist, with an awestruck Bobby Heenan acting as Vince McMahon's surrogate. With Hulk Hogan buggering off and leaving a red, white, and blue colored void, Lex was repackaged as an all-American hero and body-slammed WWE champion Yokozuna aboard a big bloody boat. Luger was clearly being groomed as the new face of WWE, but the audience weren't fully convinced. Cue the Lex Express. Vince decided that the best way to get Luger over was to make him tour the US in a big bus greeting fans, and it worked out pretty well. Luger was gaining popularity, but Bret Hart was gaining it faster. The audience decided that they wanted the Hitman to be the next big star of the company. Lex was left to look like a relic of the past, with his painfully forced smile and little mullet flowing in the winds of change. A count-out win over WWE champ Yokozuna at SummerSlam led to wild celebrations, despite the fact that the title didn't change hands. One of the most pathetic sights in WWE history, you can't help but feel a little sorry for Lex. A further title loss occurred at WrestleMania 10, and with his credibility ruined, Lex soon packed his bags, boarded the Lex Express, and drove home to WCW. His second run in WCW was successful, as Lex became the first person to topple Hollywood Hogan for the NWO World title, but it's hard to picture Lex and not think about his miserable run in the Fed.